Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the adult animated superhero film Batman Knightfall, Part 1, entitled Knightfall. And in this edition or installment to this trilogy that we're getting from Warner Brothers Animation and DC Studios, Bane destroys Arkham City, letting free all of the inmates within. So Batman pushes himself to his physical and mental limits while attempting to recapture the criminals. I was highly anticipating this animated film for a number of reasons. Number one, in a time when superhero films in the early 2000s were they were what they were. At the time we enjoyed them because that's all we had. We didn't get the MCUs and faithful adaptations to our comic arcs and runs and characters even. And so in order to get that, you had to watch the animated adaptations of these comic books. When you got the DC animated universe that was spawned from Batman the animated series and Superman the animated series, along with Justice League Unlimited, and then they went to spilling into film. Those direct to video films that were just phenomenal. I mean, just when it came to DC, and still to this day, there are few live action DC films, and I mean a few, that I would say were awesome. Awesome to the point where I'm like, that's my Superman, that's my Batman, that's my Flash, and so on and so forth. There are very, very few live action adaptations coming from Warner Brothers and DC. But when it comes to the animated, oh my God, it blows them out the water. Animated does these characters justice. You can even go over to Marvel. Marvel used to do it as well, not so often now. Well, actually, neither one of them do now as much as they did back in the early 2000s. But Marvel had a few good animated films as well. Young Avengers come to mind. That was an awesome animated film from Marvel, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through naming them all, but that's one reason. The other reason would be I read this comic arc back in 1993. I think it came out, and blew my mind, because if you're not super familiar with the comics, if you're not a comic book nerd like myself and don't know all of the different arcs and storylines and whatnot, but this was a very popular one, a very big one that has been adapted a few times. You can go to the Dark Knight Rises, the Christopher Nolan film, the end of that Dark Knight trilogy. It is loosely based on the Knightfall comic arc, and it featured Bane. Bane was the main antagonist. And what made the comic arc so awesome, up to that point, Batman was untouchable. He was unbeatable. And that was one of the reasons why he became one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. And I sat down, read this arc, because it was promoted like Batman was going to be defeated. I'm like, what? By Bane? Nah, I don't see that happening. Man, it was brutal. And what was intriguing about it was the fact that they made Bane in that arc a more formidable foe for Batman. He was always a threat, don't get me wrong, but it was something about that arc, the way he was written, that character was written. It just made it like, man, Batman is going to catch hell with Bane. And boy, did he. Batman could have easily, or I should say Bane, could have easily killed Batman. And the big twist was Bane knew who Batman was. He knew he was Bruce Wayne. And he just wanted to break him. That was the whole point of breaking all of the inmates out of Arkham. So Batman would exhaust himself, catching him, rounding him back up, and he'll just come and finish him off physically, you know. And physically he did. He broke Batman's back, broke his back, and this arc, I think it went for like 2 years, or maybe a year. I don't think it was that long. It could have been about a year that this arc went on, and while he recuperated, well, I'm not going to get into all that because that goes into part 2 of this trilogy of this animated films that we're getting. But it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that was super, super interesting. And so when they announced that they were going to do a animated feature adaptation of it, I was all for it because I'm fully confident that when it comes to the animation, that we're going to get the bee's knees. We're going to get a real good adaptation. There was only one animated film from DC that just did not hit the mark, and that was The Killing Joke. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. You know, it was just stuck in limbo. And that was also an awesome run in the comic, that at least that graphic novel, The Killing Joke, but it just didn't do that material justice. But other than that, they pretty much knock them out the park. So I was excited. I wanted to see if they still had that magic. Are we going to go back into the early 2000s when we got like back to back animated films from Warner Brothers Animation and DC? Batman Knightfall Part 1, Knightfall. The voice talents include Anson Mount, Michael Mando, and Pablo Schreiber. Anson Mount, he voices Bruce Wayne, Batman. Anson Mount, you may know him from, he's I think he was on one of these Star Trek shows. I think Discovery. He was the captain. I don't know if it was Discovery or not. I've been checked out on Star Trek when it because they've dropped the ball on Star Trek. But I do know he was the captain of maybe the Enterprise. I don't know, before Pike. I think it was the prequel. Anyways, and he was also an Inhuman for Marvel. He was the one that who blew his own head off when Wanda sewed his mouth shut because he was Black Bolt and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Well, his mouth wasn't sewn shut here. He did an excellent job as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I really enjoyed his voice over work here. Nobody can be Kevin Conroy. Nobody. Oh, Conroy. I apologize. God rest his soul. Nobody. But you want to at least get into the ballpark, and I can say he got into the ballpark. He held it down. I really did enjoy him. He brought something a little extra to it. And this version of Batman, you couldn't just be brooding, gravelly voice Batman. He had a lot going on here. Yeah, physically, mentally, emotionally, he was going through it, and you can hear the levels that Anson Mount was pouring on us throughout this film. Great job here. Michael Mando as Bane. If you don't know who Michael Mando is, he's fresh off of reprising his role as Scorpion on Spider-Man Brand New Day. Yeah, that's him. He was the voice of Bane. And out of the two, this was his best. He was not, I didn't have a problem with him as Scorpion, but I also feel like, okay, I can understand why he was kind of a lower tier villain. He just didn't, he didn't feel like Scorpion to me. He just felt like a guy with a Scorpion suit. And I guess that was the point. But here, his voiceover work as Bane chilling, chilling as Bane. Oh my God, I didn't know that was him until the movie was over, and I was looking at the credits to see who was who, and I'm like, wait, that's Michael Mann, really? That was him, man. What an amazing voiceover performance by him. Pablo Schreiber as John Paul Valley or Azrael. If you don't know who this character is, once again, if you don't know anything about the Knightfall comics and don't want to be spoiled going forward in part 2 and part 3, I'm not going to say anything. But that is a character, and they touched in on it so well here in part 1. Part 1, what makes part 1 so cool to me is the fact that they set up everything you needed to know. And this isn't a long movie by no stretch of the imagination. I don't even think it was an hour and a half. It may have just passed an hour. It's just enough to classify it as a movie. Maybe an hour and 15 minutes tops. It was not long at all. But it blew by. It felt like 30 minutes, but so much story was told within this hour and 15 minutes. The number one story was the origin of Bane. That story that we received here with Bane being born, him and his mother being banished because she gave birth to a son, and being as though the father had passed away, somebody had to pay for the sins of the father, a male, and they both had to suffer, so they were locked up in this prison or concentration camp, wherever it was. And all he had to read was the Gotham Gazette or magazine, whatever it was, and he learned about Gotham. He learned about Thomas Wayne. And after his mother passed away, he gets locked up in this hole, and all he did was train and survive and eat rats. That's all he did for years. And it was like so well drawn out. The character building here. I mean, studio execs need to watch this and really feel ashamed of themselves when they make a film, a live action film, and it don't have to be a comic book movie, action movie or whatever, just a movie in general. And you, and look at this and say, wow, we really can flush out a character, introduce a character in less than 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't complicated. We got everything we needed to know about the Bane character and more. We got everything we needed to know about the Azrael character and more. And he's not even featured in this particular part that much. But the little that we did get was excellent. You know his motivations. You know Bane's motivations. You know what Bruce Wayne is going through. And that's before all hell breaks loose in Gotham. And Tim Drake is probably the only one, as far as a character arc or character motivation or development, that's the word I was searching for so desperately, that kind of suffered. His character development suffered a little bit, but I don't knock it for that, because we got two other parts of this film. So it really didn't have room to really flush out his character, even though his character isn't a major piece, but it is a piece, and that's all he was, a piece, to keep the story flowing. The one thing when I started watching this movie that completely caught me off guard was how bloody and gory this is a true rated R movie. I know all of us, or those of us who have little ones at home and want to give them a little animated something to watch, to keep their mind occupied and out of your mind and out of your way for an hour or so. You probably want to pop in something. Oh man, he likes Batman. I'm gonna put in Batman Knightfall. I wouldn't recommend that, because this is a R-rated I mean R-rated animated film. In the first 5 minutes, you see decapitations, a man's face get cut off, a man get both of his arms get amputated. You see people get burnt in a car alive. You see somebody get ran over by a truck. And this is in the first 5 minutes. And they show every bit of it in all of his animated glory. I'm not knocking that. I'm just warning those of you who have youngsters and you see an animated movie and you want to show your youngsters, I wouldn't recommend that. But if you were of age, this was awesome. This was amazing. I was like, whoa. I figured it was going to be kind of graphic, because this is a graphic story. It was in the comics. But I didn't know it was going to be this graphic. And man, when I say they have Bane as ferocious as he is in the comic, he is ferocious. He is the Incredible Hulk. Imagine Savage Hulk with Bruce Banner's intelligence at the same. You don't have the separate ones, Smart Hulk and Savage Hulk and all this here. No, they're all merged together because Bane, when he turns on his venom and he grows 3 times the size of Batman and and still talking trash to him, it was the most beautiful thing I ever saw on the television screen. And when I say he brutalized him mentally and physically, I'm not joking in the least bit. This was the beating that I remember from the comics just put into motion. Instead of looking at it in panels, we got to see it in motion. Oh my God. I was almost in tears looking at the beating Bruce Wayne was received. I have never seen this. Never. The comic book panels don't do it justice. Any live action adaptation, even in The Dark Knight Rises, when Bane broke Batman's back, it was kind of campy. It's campy in comparisons to this. Bruh, this was brutal. This was a beat down. He didn't just, grab him and break his back. No. That fight went on for about 6-7 minutes. And it wasn't even a fight. It was a one-way butt kicking. My God. Yeah, this was excellent. All this did was get me more excited for part 2 and 3. Or get mad. It depends on which side of the brain is answering. I'm excited to see the other 2 parts, and then I'm mad that they split it in 3 parts. I'm like, man, just give me it all. I don't need to. We don't need to split it up because the way it's set up, at least this is how it's supposed to be released. We just got part 1. Part 2 comes out September the 8th, I believe. And part 3 don't come out till next year. Oh, nah. We can't do that. You can't have 1 and 2 come out weeks within each other, and then we have to wait 3-4 months before we get the conclusion. That is torture, people. That is they are so wrong for that. But this is an excellent adult animated film from DC Studios. I'm so happy that animated films are back in this genre, and I hope they do more. I hope we do get other arcs like that, in the format that is set up in, as far as DC is concerned. I don't know if this is continuity wise with the live action with James Gunn's universe or not. I doubt it, but he claimed when he first announced that they were going to do animated films and live action TV shows and films, that they will all be connected. That was his initial mission statement. And so I don't know if this is a prequel to all that, because the live action Brave and the Bold film that he announced is taking place after all this because Damian Wayne is the Robin, not Tim Drake. So I don't know, man. I don't think he knows. That's the sad part. But nonetheless, Batman Knightfall Part 1, entitled Knightfall, gets a letter grade of an A. Yes, deeply enjoyed it. Is there a little bias there because I'm a Batman mark? Sure. Sure, it's a possibility, but it is good. I'll tell you if there's a bad. I've seen some bad Batman stuff. Come on now, Batman and Robin. Hello. I'll acknowledge bad Batmans. The Dark Knight Rises. That wasn't great. That was not a great film. So I can acknowledge that. So give me some slack here. I'm not being super biased. This was really, really good. I hope you check it out. If you have checked it out, let me know what you thought of Part 1 to Batman Knightfall. You can subscribe to the kbradionetwork.com website where you can be notified of new episodes and listen to previous episodes as well. Don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Batman Knightfall Part 1. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.